Welcome to Echo of Crime YouTube channel. Perched on the edge of San Francisco Bay, San Quentin State Prison stands as a grim monument to America's oldest and most severe approach to punishment. Opened in 1852, San Quentin was built during California's early statehood, long before modern ideas of prison reform existed. From the beginning, it was designed not just to confine criminals, but to permanently remove society's most dangerous individuals from the outside world. Over time, its name became synonymous with fear, finality, and sentences that offered no second chances. For more than a century, San Quentin has housed inmates convicted of the most serious crimes imaginable: brutal murders, serial killings, and acts that shocked the nation. Many of the men sent through its gates arrived knowing they would never leave. Life without parole meant exactly that: no release, no freedom, no return to society. Others were sent to death row, where some spent decades waiting for executions that might never come. The prison became a place where time stood still, measured not in days or years, but in court appeals, lockdowns, and endless routine. Daily life inside San Quentin was harsh and unforgiving. Cells were small, crowded, and often shared by multiple inmates. Violence was a constant threat, fueled by gang divisions, desperation, and the psychological toll of long-term confinement. Guards worked under constant tension, knowing that one mistake could turn deadly. Riots, stabbings, and lockdowns became part of the prison's history, reinforcing its reputation as one of the most dangerous places to be incarcerated in America. San Quentin's death row, once the largest in the United States, added another layer to its notoriety. Inmates sentenced to death lived in extreme isolation, often confined to their cells for most of the day, with limited human contact. Some arrived in their 20s and aged into old men behind bars, watching decades pass while appeals moved slowly through the courts. For many, hope faded long before their cases were resolved, replaced by a grim acceptance that their lives would end inside the prison's walls. Outside the prison, San Quentin loomed as a symbol of America's toughest justice. Politicians referenced it in crime debates, media outlets used it as shorthand for the worst criminals, and families of victims looked to it as a place where justice was carried out. Yet few people truly understood what life inside was like, or what it meant to be an inmate who would never walk free again. The foundation of a place defined by permanence. San Quentin was not just a prison, it was a final destination. For the men locked inside, the gates closing behind them marked the end of ordinary life, the loss of future possibilities, and the beginning of a sentence measured only by survival. This is where America sent those it believed could never be forgiven, and where countless inmates began lives that would end exactly where they started, behind the same concrete walls. Inside San Quentin State Prison, time moves differently. For inmates serving life sentences without the possibility of parole, or those once sentenced to death, each day blends into the next, creating a routine that feels endless. Wake-up calls come early, followed by strict counts, where inmates must stand silently while guards verify every body. Meals are brief, movements are controlled, and every action is governed by rules designed to maintain order in an environment where tension is always present. One of the most defining aspects of San Quentin has been its population of inmates who know, with certainty, that they will never be released. Life without parole is not a symbolic sentence. It is a permanent condition. These inmates watch generations of guards come and go, see fellow prisoners age, fall ill, and die, and realize that the outside world continues without them. For many, decades pass marked only by changes in prison policy, court rulings they are no longer part of, and the slow physical toll of aging behind bars. Violence has long been part of San Quentin's reality. Overcrowding, especially during the late 20th century, intensified conflicts between rival gangs and racial groups. Lockdowns were frequent, sometimes lasting weeks, confining inmates to their cells nearly 24 hours a day. During these periods, tensions ran high. Limited movement, limited contact, and constant uncertainty pushed many inmates to psychological breaking points. Guards faced extreme pressure as well, working in one of the most dangerous correctional environments in the country. San Quentin's death row added another layer of severity to daily life. Inmates sentenced to death often spent decades in isolation, housed in single cells, with minimal interaction and heavily restricted movement. Some arrived young and grew old while waiting for appeals that dragged on year after year. Executions, when they occurred, left a lasting impact on both inmates and staff. For those still alive on death row, each passing year brought a strange mix of dread and suspension, uncertain whether they would eventually be executed or die of natural causes inside the prison. Despite its brutal reputation, San Quentin also became a place where contradictions emerged. Over time, educational programs, writing workshops, and rehabilitation efforts were introduced, even for inmates who would never be released. Some prisoners earned degrees, wrote books, or participated in restorative justice programs, attempting to find meaning in lives stripped of freedom. For critics, this raised difficult questions. Should people who will never leave prison be given opportunities for growth, or is punishment alone the goal? The true weight of San Quentin, not just as a physical structure, but as a psychological landscape. It is a place where punishment is permanent, where hope is limited, and where survival depends on adaptation. For the inmates who never leave, San Quentin becomes their entire world, the place where they grow old, where they confront the consequences of their crimes, and where their stories quietly end, far from the public eye. By the 21st century, San Quentin State Prison had become more than just a symbol of punishment. It was now at the center of national debates about mass incarceration, life sentences, and the future of the American prison system. While its reputation was built on fear and finality, growing scrutiny forced the public to confront difficult questions. What purpose does a prison serve when inmates are guaranteed never to return to society? Is permanent punishment justice, or simply isolation without resolution? One of the most defining turning points in San Quentin's modern history came during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, the prison experienced one of the worst coronavirus outbreaks in the U.S. correctional system. Overcrowding, aging infrastructure, and limited medical capacity contributed to the rapid spread of the virus among inmates and staff. Dozens of prisoners died, many of whom were elderly or medically vulnerable. For inmates serving life sentences, the outbreak reinforced a painful truth. Even survival itself was no longer guaranteed behind the walls. The crisis drew national attention and intensified calls for reform, early releases, and better health care for incarcerated people. At the same time, San Quentin became an unexpected hub for rehabilitation and self-reflection. Programs such as the Prison University Project, restorative justice circles, and inmate-led journalism allowed some prisoners to tell their stories and take responsibility for their past actions. These efforts did not erase the crimes committed, but they revealed a side of San Quentin rarely seen by the public. Men aging behind bars, grappling with guilt, accountability, and the reality that redemption may never include freedom. For inmates who would never leave, these programs offered something rare inside a maximum security prison: purpose. The prison also underwent structural changes. California placed a moratorium on the death penalty, effectively freezing executions and reducing death row's role at San Quentin. In a historic shift, the death row population was gradually relocated, marking the end of an era in which San Quentin served as the state's execution center. While this change did not free inmates serving life sentences, it signaled a broader transformation in how punishment is carried out in California. Today, San Quentin remains one of the most complex institutions in the American justice system. It is still a place where inmates die behind bars, where life sentences mean exactly that, and where the weight of irreversible punishment is felt every day. But it is also a place where society's views on crime, accountability, and humanity are being quietly re-examined. Sobering reality. San Quentin is no longer just about the crimes that sent men there. It is about what happens after the doors close forever. For the inmates who never leave, the prison becomes their final world. And for America, San Quentin stands as a living question, asking whether justice should only punish, or whether it must also confront what it means to imprison someone for life.